Her best friend married her billionaire ex-husband and sent her an invite to humiliate her. She arrived with triplets and exposed them both. The champagne glass slipped from Luna Tucker's perfectly manicured hand, shattering against the marble floor of the Grand Meridian Hotel. Her voice came out as a strangled whisper. "Luna, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." That was Scott Bailey, her groom, the billionaire tech CEO in his $1,000 tuxedo, confused by his bride's sudden pallor. But Luna couldn't speak. She could only stare at the woman who had just stepped onto the terrace, the woman who was supposed to arrive broken, struggling, defeated, the woman Luna had spent 4 years carefully destroying. Except this woman was not broken. Nicole Simmons stood in the entrance wearing an emerald silk gown that probably cost more than Luna had spent on her entire wedding dress. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, diamond earrings catching the golden sunset light. She looked like she had just walked off a red carpet, and beside her, holding her hands, were 3 of the most beautiful children Luna had ever seen. 2 little boys in matching tuxedos and a little girl in a princess dress. All 4 years old, all looking like they belonged in a magazine. Luna's legs felt weak. This wasn't possible. This wasn't the plan. Nicole was supposed to be nothing. But then Nicole's eyes found Luna's across the crowded terrace, and she smiled. Not a bitter smile, not an angry smile, a smile of someone who had already won. "Hello, Luna." Nicole's voice carried across the sudden quiet, clear and gracious. "Thank you so much for the invitation. The children and I wouldn't have missed this for the world." And that is when Luna knew. She had made the biggest mistake of her life. Have you ever had someone smile in your face while planning your destruction behind your back? Have you ever called someone your best friend, your sister, your ride, or die, only to discover they were plotting your downfall from day one? This is the story of Nicole Simmons, a woman who thought her best friend Luna was her guardian angel, a woman who believed that the girl who held her hand through college, who celebrated her wedding, who promised to always have her back, actually loved her. But Luna Tucker didn't love Nicole. Luna hated her, envied her, wanted everything she had. And when Nicole married billionaire tech CEO Scott Bailey, Luna didn't just want Nicole's life. She wanted to destroy it, take it, and then rub Nicole's face in the ruins. So Luna did something so calculated, so cruel, so absolutely diabolical that it would make your blood run cold. She seduced Nicole's husband, convinced him to abandon his pregnant wife. And then, for 4 years, she pretended to be Nicole's supportive best friend while secretly living with a man who had called Nicole nothing and walked away from her and their unborn triplets. But here is what Luna didn't know. Here is what her jealousy and her ego and her obsession with winning blinded her from seeing. You can break a woman down. You can take everything from her. You can leave her with nothing but 3 babies and a broken heart. But if that woman has even one spark of determination left, if she decides that her children deserve better, if she chooses to rise instead of staying down, she can become someone you could never compete with. And Nicole Simmons? She didn't just rise. She built an empire. She transformed from abandoned wife to self-made millionaire in 4 years. She turned her pain into power, her struggle into success, and her tears into triumph. And when Luna sent her that wedding invitation, dripping with fake concern and thinly veiled cruelty, expecting Nicole to show up defeated so Luna could have one final moment of superiority, Nicole showed up all right. But she showed up as someone Luna never saw coming. This is a story about betrayal, about fake friendship, about 2 people so consumed with pride and jealousy that they destroy themselves trying to destroy someone else. This is a story about a mother's love, about resilience, about the kind of strength that only comes from having everything taken from you and choosing to build anyway. So settle in, because what you're about to hear will make you question every friendship you have, make you want to stand up and cheer, and remind you that karma doesn't always come when you want it, but when it comes correct. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome home to Mr. Hearthline Stories. If no one has reminded you today, let me be the one. You are precious. You are needed. You are deeply, deeply loved. I don't speak to a crowd. I speak to hearts. Your heart. And if mine still lives inside yours, please hit that like button right now. Not because I told you to, but because it makes me feel your love. When you do that, I feel so proud. I feel seen. I feel held. You are the soul of this channel. Every time I hit record, I think of you. Your kindness, your patience, your warmth. I don't just tell stories, I write them with the love I have for you. And I promise, no one in this world could ever love you the way I do. So if this story already has you hooked, if you can already feel where this is going, do me a favor. Comment below where you're watching from, or just say I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline. Let me know you're here. Let me feel your presence. And subscribe, because Nicole's journey is just beginning, and you don't want to miss a single moment of what happens when a woman decides she's had enough of being called nothing. Now, let's begin. Hand in hand, heart to heart, one family, one love, forever. 4 years and 9 months before that wedding. 4 years and 9 months before Luna's world came crashing down. 4 years and 9 months before Nicole Simmons walked into that hotel like a queen. Nicole was 28 years old, sitting in Dr. Patricia Morrison's examination room, staring at an ultrasound image that was about to change her entire life. Congratulations, Mrs. Bailey. Dr. Morrison's smile was warm and genuine. You're pregnant. Nicole's hand flew to her mouth, tears already forming. After 3 years of marriage and 2 years of trying, this moment had finally come. How far along am I? About 9 weeks. But Nicole, there's something else. Something quite special, actually. Dr. Morrison turned the monitor so Nicole could see it more clearly. She pointed to 3 distinct shapes on the screen. You're carrying triplets. 3 healthy babies. Nicole couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at those 3 tiny forms on the screen. 3 babies. 3 children. After all the negative tests, all the disappointments, all the quiet tears she had hidden from Scott, her body had created not 1 miracle, but 3. Oh my God. Her voice was barely a whisper. Scott is going to lose his mind. He's always said he wanted a big family. This is everything. She pressed her hand to her still flat stomach, overwhelmed by a joy so fierce it made her dizzy. Scott Bailey, her husband, the man who had built a tech empire from nothing, the man who had swept her off her feet 5 years ago and made her believe in fairy tales, was going to be a father. They were going to be parents, together. The drive home from the doctor's office felt like it took forever. Nicole's mind raced with plans, with dreams, with visions of the future. She would tell Scott tonight. She had already prepared his favorite meal that morning before her appointment. Herb-crusted lamb with roasted vegetables, the 2015 Napa Valley Cabernet they had been saving since their wedding. Candles throughout their penthouse loft in the city's revitalized downtown district. She had even bought 3 tiny onesies and wrapped them in a gift box. 1 pink, 2 blue, though she didn't know yet which baby would wear which color. The reveal would be perfect, romantic, everything Scott deserved. At 28, Nicole still felt incredibly lucky to be married to Scott Bailey. When they had met 5 years ago at a university fundraiser, she had been a graduate student working part-time at the campus library, studying art history and dreaming of maybe working in a museum someday. Scott had been the brilliant 33-year-old entrepreneur who had just sold his first tech startup for $8 million and was launching Bailey Tech Solutions. She remembered that night so clearly. She had been helping serve champagne at the event, trying to be invisible in her server's uniform, when Scott had looked at her, really looked at her, and smiled. "You look miserable," he had said. Nicole had frozen, terrified she was about to get fired. "I'm sorry, I'll try to look more cheerful." "No, I mean, you look miserable being invisible. Someone with eyes like yours shouldn't be serving champagne. You should be drinking it." He had taken 2 glasses from her tray, handed her one, and said, "I'm Scott, and you're going to tell me your name and what you're studying and why. Someone as beautiful as you is working instead of enjoying this party." That was how it started, with Scott Bailey seeing her when everyone else looked through her. Their courtship had felt like something from a romance novel. Private jet trips to wine country, intimate dinners at restaurants she couldn't pronounce, weekend getaways to his family's lake house, and then, on a beach in Santorini, with the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, he had gotten down on one knee. "Nicole Simmons, you are the most authentic, genuine, beautiful soul I have ever met. You make me want to be better. You make me believe in things I thought were just fantasy. Will you marry me?" She had said yes through tears of joy. And for 3 years she had tried to be the wife Scott deserved. She had left her graduate program to support his growing company. She had learned to navigate his world of tech moguls and business dinners and charity galas. She had smiled through the subtle condescension from his colleagues' wives. The women who came from money and made sure Nicole knew she hadn't. But Scott had always defended her, always told her that her authenticity, her warmth, her genuine heart were worth more than all their polished airs and inherited wealth. At least, that is what he used to say. Nicole pushed away the small voice of doubt that had been growing louder over the past 6 months. The way Scott had become more distant, more critical, more likely to point out her mistakes than celebrate her efforts. The way he sometimes looked at her like he was disappointed. But tonight would change everything. Tonight, she would tell him about the babies, and he would remember why he fell in love with her. He would hold her and tell her she was everything he ever wanted. They would plan the nursery together, choose names together, dream about their future together. Nicole pulled into the parking garage of their building and took the elevator up to the 15th floor. Their penthouse was beautiful, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture, and the kind of space that screamed success. She had never quite felt like she belonged there, if she was being honest. But it was home because Scott was there. She checked the dinner in the oven. Perfect. She lit the candles. The rose petals she had scattered on the dining table that morning were still arranged in a heart shape around Scott's place setting. Everything was ready, and then she heard his key in the lock. Her heart raced with anticipation. This was it, the moment that would define the rest of their lives. She tucked the ultrasound images behind her back, wanting to savor the surprise, wanting to see the joy spread across his handsome face. "Scott, honey," she called out, practically vibrating with excitement. "I have the most incredible news to share with you." But the man who walked through the door was not the loving husband she expected. Scott's 6'2" frame filled the doorway, his custom Tom Ford suit immaculate despite the November rain outside. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his $5,000 watch catching the candlelight. He looked every inch the billionaire CEO he had become. But his eyes, his gray eyes that used to look at her with warmth and desire and love, those eyes were cold, frigid, like looking at a stranger. "Pack your things, Nicole." His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was firing an underperforming employee. "I want you out of here by tomorrow morning." The ultrasound images slipped from Nicole's numb fingers. They fluttered to the hardwood floor like dying birds, the images of their 3 babies scattering across the expensive wood. "What?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "What did you just say?" Scott stepped over the fallen ultrasounds without even glancing down. His Italian leather shoes, the ones that cost more than Nicole's entire wardrobe, clicked against the floor with deliberate finality. He walked past her toward their bedroom, loosening his silk tie, the burgundy one she had given him for their 2nd anniversary. "You heard me perfectly well, Nicole. This charade is over. I'm done pretending. And I'm definitely done with you." Nicole's legs felt unsteady beneath her. The romantic dinner, the candles, the rose petals, the 3 tiny onesies wrapped and waiting. Everything seemed to mock her now. "Scott, please." Her voice was shaking. "There's something important I need to tell you. Something that will change everything. Nothing you could possibly say matters anymore." He brushed past her toward their bedroom, his shoulder knocking against hers with deliberate coldness. "I found someone who actually deserves to be with a man like me. Someone who isn't." He paused at the bedroom doorway, turning to look at her with undisguised disgust. "Someone who isn't beneath me." Each word was carefully chosen to wound, each syllable designed to cut. Nicole pressed her hand to her chest, struggling to breathe as the room seemed to spin around her. "Beneath you? Scott, we're married. We took vows in front of your family, my family. We promised to love each other through everything, through better or worse, through richer or poorer. We promised." His laughter was sharp and bitter, a sound Nicole had never heard from him before. "Vows to you?" Scott began throwing clothes into expensive leather luggage, each movement aggressive and dismissive. He grabbed his designer suits, his custom shirts, his collection of watches that cost more than cars. Everything that represented his success, his status, his complete separation from her world. "Nicole, look at yourself. Really look. You come from nothing. Your family runs a hardware store in a dying town 3 hours from here. Your parents work with their hands for a living. You have a master's degree in art history. Art history, for God's sake. Do you know how many times I've had to explain to my colleagues what you even studied? Do you know how many times I've seen pity in their eyes when they ask what my wife does, and I have? To say nothing, she does nothing, because your degree means absolutely nothing in the real world?" These were things he had once claimed to love about her. Her authentic background, her passion for beauty and culture, her down-to-earth family who had built their business from scratch and taught her the value of hard work, her education that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with understanding human creativity and expression. All of it, every single thing he had once praised, was now a weapon in his hands. "But you said you loved me exactly as I am." Nicole's voice was breaking now, tears streaming down her face. "You said my family was warm and real, unlike the cold corporate world you grew up in. You said my degree showed I valued beauty and meaning over money. You said none of that other stuff mattered. You said you chose me because I was different from everyone else in your world." I lied. Scott's voice was flat, emotionless, completely devoid of the warmth she had known for 5 years. "I thought maybe I could shape you into someone worthy of standing beside me, clean you up, teach you how to navigate my world, turn you into the kind of wife a CEO should have. But you can't polish mediocrity, can you, Nicole? You can't make someone into something they're fundamentally incapable of being." Nicole sank onto their California king bed, the bed where they had made love just 4 nights ago, where he had whispered promises about their future together, where he had held her and told her she was beautiful. The bed that now felt like foreign territory. "How can you say these things to me?" She looked up at this stranger wearing her husband's face. "This isn't you, Scott. This isn't the man I fell in love with. The man I married would never be this cruel. What happened? What changed? Please, just talk to me. This is exactly who I am." Scott spun around, his face twisted with something that looked disturbingly like hatred. "I'm being honest for the first time in this entire relationship. You want to know what's cruel, Nicole? I'll tell you what's cruel. Being trapped with someone who will never be good enough. Having to pretend you belong in my world when everyone at my company whispers about how I married down. Going to business dinners and watching you use the wrong fork or laugh too loudly, or try to contribute to conversations about things you don't understand. That's cruel. To me, every word was a knife. Every sentence was designed to destroy not just their relationship, but her sense of self, her sense of worth, everything she had believed about their love." Nicole's hands were shaking as she bent down and picked up one of the ultrasound images from the floor. She held it like a lifeline, like proof that this couldn't be happening, that Scott couldn't really mean what he was saying. Summoning every ounce of courage she had left, every bit of hope that still lived in her breaking heart, she stood up and walked toward him. She held out the ultrasound image with trembling fingers. "I'm pregnant, Scott." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the room like thunder. "We're going to have a baby. Actually, we're going to have 3 babies. Triplets. I found out today. That's what I wanted to tell you tonight. That's why I made your favorite dinner. That's why I lit all these candles. We're going to be parents. You're going to be a father to 3 beautiful babies." Scott stopped packing. For one brief, desperate moment, Nicole thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Shock. Maybe even a hint of the man she had married, the man who had once told her he wanted a house full of children. But when he spoke, his voice was even colder than before. "Not my problem." The words hit Nicole like a physical blow, like he had reached out and struck her across the face. She actually stumbled backward, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach, to the place where 3 tiny lives were growing. "What do you mean, not your problem?" Her voice was rising now, desperation replacing shock. "These are your children. Our children. 3 babies that we made together. How can you say that's not your problem?" "My children?" Scott's laugh was vicious, cutting, designed to wound. "With you? I seriously doubt they're even mine. You probably got knocked up by some guy from your pathetic hometown, and now you're trying to trap me, trying to use pregnancy to keep me in this mistake of a marriage." The accusation was so shocking, so completely unfounded and cruel that Nicole couldn't even respond. She just stared at this man, this stranger, wondering when her husband had been replaced by this monster, wondering if this monster had been there all along, hiding behind declarations of love and romantic gestures. "Scott, I have never..." She couldn't even finish the sentence. The idea that she would cheat on him, that she would lie about this, that she would use children as manipulation, was so absurd, so far from who she was that she couldn't form the words to defend herself. "But even if they are mine," Scott continued, zipping up his suitcase with violent force, "even if by some miracle you're telling the truth and you actually are carrying my children, I don't want them. Do you understand me, Nicole? I don't want them. I don't want any reminder of the biggest mistake I ever made." And that mistake was marrying you. Nicole doubled over, as if he had punched her in the stomach. Her free hand moved instinctively to protect her belly, to shield the three innocent lives growing inside her from the hatred spilling from their father's mouth. Please. The word came out as a sob. Please don't do this. We can work through this. Whatever I did wrong, whatever made you change, I can fix it. I love you so much, Scott. I love you with everything I am. And these babies, they deserve a father. They deserve a family. Please, please don't do this to us. Your love means nothing to me. Scott grabbed his suitcase and headed for the door, not even looking back at her crumpled form. Do you understand? Nothing. Your love, your tears, your pathetic begging, none of it matters. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce. Don't even think about trying to contact me. Don't call. Don't text. Don't show up at my office. Don't ask for money. Don't ask for anything. You're nothing to me now, Nicole. You always were nothing, and you always will be nothing. The door slammed shut with such force that their wedding photo fell from the wall. The glass shattered across the floor in 1,000 glittering pieces, the image of them kissing, on their wedding day now fragmented and destroyed, just like every promise he had made that day. Nicole collapsed beside the broken frame, her body shaking with sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her soul. She clutched the ultrasound images to her chest, protecting them, the only proof she had that something beautiful had come from this nightmare. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky and the rain grew heavier, matching the storm inside her heart. The candles still flickered on the dining table, their light dancing across the untouched rose petals. The herb-crusted lamb sat in the oven, the timer long since gone off, the perfect dinner now burning, filling the apartment with the acrid smell of destroyed dreams. Nicole knelt there among the shattered glass of their wedding photo, holding the proof of 3 new lives in her hands, and felt something inside her break that she wasn't sure could ever be fixed. She didn't know it yet, couldn't have known it. But this moment, this absolute devastation, this complete destruction of everything she had believed about love and marriage, and her worth as a human being, this was going to become the foundation for the most incredible transformation of her life. But right now, in this moment, all she knew was pain. And she had no idea that her best friend, the woman she had called just that morning to share the news of her pregnancy, the woman who had squealed with joy and promised to come over and celebrate, that woman was the architect of this entire nightmare. Luna Tucker sat in her own penthouse across town, her phone in her hand, a smile of satisfaction on her perfectly made-up face. She had just gotten off the phone with Scott Bailey, the phone call where he had confirmed it was done. He had left Nicole. He had called her nothing. He had walked away. And in 6 months, after an appropriate period of pretending to support her, heartbroken best friend, Luna would make her relationship with Scott public. She would become Mrs. Scott Bailey. She would have everything Nicole had, everything Luna had wanted from the moment she first introduced Scott to Nicole 5 years ago. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back. Let's understand how a friendship that started in a college dorm room became the most toxic, destructive betrayal imaginable. Let's understand who Luna Tucker really was and why she had spent 6 years pretending to love a woman she actually envied with every fiber of her being. 6 years earlier, Nicole Simmons was 22 years old, a first-year graduate student in art, history at the State University, moving into the graduate student housing, with a suitcase of second-hand clothes, a laptop her parents had saved for, 2 years to buy her, and dreams of maybe someday working in a museum. Her roommate assignment letter had said Luna Catherine Tucker. Nicole had Googled her, found nothing but a private Instagram account and a LinkedIn profile that said she had graduated summa cum laude from an Ivy League school. Nicole had been intimidated immediately, but when Luna walked into their shared apartment that first day, she had been nothing but warm. Oh my God, you must be Nicole. Luna's smile had been dazzling, perfect white teeth, designer clothes, expensive luggage, but her hug had felt genuine. I'm so glad I got you as a roommate. All my undergrad roommates were such snobs. You seem real. Nicole had felt herself relax. They're going to be best friends. And for 6 years, Nicole believed that's exactly what they were. Best friends. Sisters from different misters, as Luna liked to say. Partners in crime. Ride or die. Luna was there for everything. When Nicole's grandmother died in their 2nd year, and Nicole couldn't afford to fly home for the funeral, Luna had bought her a plane ticket. When Nicole had a panic attack before her thesis defense, Luna had held her hand and talked her through it. When Nicole got food poisoning from cheap cafeteria food, Luna had taken care of her, bringing her soup and ginger ale and sitting with her through the worst of it. Nicole loved Luna, trusted her completely, told her everything, every hope, every fear, every dream, every insecurity. What Nicole didn't know, couldn't have known, was that Luna was performing. Every kind gesture, every supportive word, every moment of fake friendship was carefully calculated. Because the truth was, Luna Tucker had hated Nicole Simmons from the first moment they met. Luna came from wealth, real wealth. Her father owned a private equity firm that managed billions in assets. Her mother chaired the boards of 4 prestigious cultural institutions. Luna had grown up in a mansion, attended the best schools, worn designer clothes since she was old enough to walk. She had everything money could buy. Everything except the one thing she wanted most. People didn't naturally like Luna. They respected her. They were intimidated by her. They wanted access to her family's money and connections. But they didn't actually like her. Luna's relationships were transactional. Her undergrad friends had been other rich kids playing games of social hierarchy. The men she dated wanted her for her looks and her family name. No one saw her, really saw her, the way people saw Nicole, because Nicole had this quality that Luna couldn't buy, couldn't fake, couldn't replicate no matter how hard she tried. Nicole was genuinely warm, authentically kind. People were drawn to her not because of what she could give them, but because of who she was. In their very first week as roommates, they'd gone to a graduate school mixer together. Luna had walked in wearing a designer dress that cost $3,000, her hair professionally styled, her makeup perfect. Nicole had worn a simple dress from a thrift store, her hair in a ponytail, minimal makeup. And by the end of the night, Nicole had been surrounded by people, laughing, connecting, making friends, while Luna had stood by the bar, watching, seething. That was when Luna's plan had begun to form. If she couldn't be Nicole, she would become Nicole's best friend. She would study her, learn what made people love her, and eventually, she would take everything Nicole had and prove that money and status and breeding were what really mattered. So Luna had befriended Nicole, performed kindness, played the role of supportive best friend while secretly cataloging every insecurity. Nicole revealed every weakness she exposed, every vulnerability she shared. And when Nicole had started dating Scott Bailey, when Luna had introduced them, at her family's charity gala thinking Scott would be interested in her, Luna Tucker, the woman from his own social class, and instead watched him fall, head over heels for authentic, genuine, nothing special Nicole Simmons. That was when Luna's envy had turned into something darker, something obsessive, something dangerous. Luna had introduced Scott and Nicole at the Tucker Family Foundation gala. It was supposed to be Luna's moment. She had invited Scott specifically, had done her research, knew he was newly successful and looking to make connections in high society. She had planned to charm him, to start a relationship that would combine their wealth and status into a power couple for the ages. But when Scott had arrived and Luna had introduced him to her roommate Nicole, who was there helping serve champagne to make some extra money, everything had gone wrong. Scott had looked at Nicole, and something in his eyes had shifted. He had seen her, really seen her in a way he had completely looked past Luna. And when he had taken that champagne glass from Nicole's tray, when he had smiled at her and said those words, about how someone with eyes like hers shouldn't be invisible, Luna had felt something crack inside her chest. She had stood there in her $5,000 gown, with her perfect hair and her family's billions, and watched a man choose the girl in the server's uniform. Choose authenticity over performance. Choose real over polished. Luna had gone home that night and cried tears of rage. And then she had made a decision. If she couldn't have Scott, she would take him from Nicole. Eventually, when it would hurt the most. For 4 years, Luna had watched Scott and Nicole's relationship, attended their wedding, smiled in the photos, made toasts about true love, all while planning. She had started slowly. Casual visits to Scott's office to discuss charity work. "Oh, I'm helping plan a fundraiser. Can you donate?" Innocent enough, friendly enough, just his wife's best friend being supportive. But over time, the visits became more frequent. The conversations became more personal, and Luna had begun to plant seeds. "Nicole is amazing, but do you ever worry she doesn't understand the pressures you're under? I love her like a sister, but sometimes I wonder if she's overwhelmed by your world. She's so sweet, But is she really equipped to be a CEO's wife? Little comments, tiny doubts, planted carefully, strategically, over months and months. And then, 6 months before Scott left Nicole, Luna had made her move. She had shown up at Scott's office in a dress that left little to the imagination, with concerns that she needed to discuss privately. "I'm worried about Nicole." Luna's performance had been flawless, concern dripping from every word. "She's been seeming really stressed lately, overwhelmed. I think she's struggling to keep up with your lifestyle. I would never want to betray her confidence, but she's told me she sometimes feels like she's not good enough for you." None of it was true. Nicole had never said anything like that. But Luna had known that Scott's ego, his pride, his need to be with someone who, enhanced rather than diminished his status, would hear what he wanted to hear. Scott had started pulling away from Nicole after that conversation, started seeing her through the lens of Luna's poison, started noticing all the ways Nicole didn't fit in his world of tech moguls and billion-dollar deals. And Luna had been there, always there, supportive of Scott's frustrations, understanding of his disappointments, slowly positioning herself as the kind of woman he should have married. Polished, poised, from his world. The affair had started 4 months before Scott left Nicole. Luna and Scott had slept together for the first time in his office, on the same leather couch where Luna had spent months planting seeds of doubt about his wife. And it had felt like victory. Like Luna had finally taken what should have been hers from the beginning. When Nicole had called Luna that morning, excited and nervous, to say she was going to the doctor because she thought she might be pregnant, Luna had felt panic. A baby would lock Scott to Nicole forever. A baby would ruin everything. So Luna had done something unforgivable. She had called Scott, immediately. "Nicole is about to tell you she's pregnant." Luna's voice had been urgent, calculated. "I think she did it on purpose, Scott. I think she knows you've been distant and she's trying to trap you. You need to end this marriage before she uses a baby to keep you locked in a mistake." And then Luna had planted the worst seed of all. "How do you even know it's yours? She's been so desperate lately. Who knows what she might have done?" Scott had been furious, his pride wounded, his ego bruised by the suggestion that Nicole might have cheated. Never mind that it was a complete fabrication. Never mind that Nicole had been nothing but faithful and devoted. Scott had gone home that night ready to destroy her, and Luna had sat in her apartment, waiting for the phone call confirming it was done. When Scott had called her 3 hours later to say he had left Nicole, had called her nothing, had walked out on her pregnancy announcement, Luna had smiled. She had won. Or so she thought. What Luna didn't understand, what her wealth and privilege and obsession with winning had blinded her from seeing, was that true victory isn't about taking someone else's life. It's about building your own. And Nicole Simmons, broken and abandoned and pregnant with triplets, was about to start building something Luna could never compete with. But that comes later. Right now, let's stay with Nicole in her darkest moment. Because to understand her triumph, you have to understand just how low she fell. The divorce was swift and merciless. Scott's team of expensive lawyers made sure of that. Nicole couldn't afford legal representation beyond a public defender who handled her case along with 50 others. She didn't stand a chance. Everything had been in Scott's name from the beginning. The penthouse, the cars, the investment accounts, the vacation home. Everything that represented their life together belonged to him legally. Nicole walked away from 4 years of marriage with a single suitcase of clothes, a broken heart, and 3 babies growing inside her that their father had called a mistake. The efficiency apartment she found was in the worst part of the city, where sirens wailed through the night and broken glass glittered on sidewalks like deadly stars. $425 a month for a single room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. A hot plate, a card table, a mattress on the floor that she bought at a thrift store for $35. It was all she could afford. Nicole was 7 months pregnant with triplets when she started working 3 jobs just to survive. She cleaned office buildings from midnight to 6 in the morning, her enormous belly making it hard to bend, hard to breathe, hard to do anything but push through the pain. She worked a lunch shift at a downtown diner, serving food to business people who looked through her like she was invisible, her swollen feet aching in shoes that no longer fit. And in the evenings, she did freelance graphic design work for clients she found on the internet, teaching herself basic design, software through free tutorials because her art history degree might as well have been worthless for all the good it did her now. The combined income barely covered rent and the cheapest groceries she could find. Rice and beans, pasta, whatever was on sale. She was growing 3 human beings inside her body, and she could barely afford to feed herself. Her only support was her sister Gloria. Gloria Simmons was 2 years older than Nicole, worked as a dental hygienist, and had 3 kids of her own. She didn't have much, but what she had, she shared. $20 here, $50 there, a bag of maternity clothes she found at a yard sale, an old crib that her youngest had outgrown. Nicole's parents, who ran that hardware store in their dying hometown, had given her their entire savings, $340. It was everything they had after putting both daughters through college. Nicole had cried when she accepted it, knowing what it cost them to give it. But it still wasn't enough. And through it all, Luna was there, visiting, bringing cheap baby supplies with apologies about how it was all she could afford, taking photos, posting on social media about what a good friend she was. Nicole, exhausted and desperate, and believing she had no one else, would hug Luna and thank her, would cry on her shoulder about how hard everything was, would confess her fears about being a single mother to triplets with no money and no support, and Luna would hold her and make comforting sounds. Then she would leave Nicole's rundown apartment and go straight to Scott's penthouse, where she would show him the photos of Nicole's suffering and reassure him that he had made the right choice. "Look how pathetic she is without you." Luna would curl up against Scott on his expensive couch, her perfectly manicured nails trailing across his chest. "You dodged a bullet. Can you imagine being tied to that for the rest of your life?" And Scott would look at the photos of Nicole, pregnant and exhausted and struggling, and feel nothing but relief that it wasn't his problem anymore. What neither of them understood was that suffering can break you, or it can forge you into something unbreakable. And Nicole Simmons was about to discover which one she was. The night Nicole gave birth was the night everything changed. It was 3 a.m. on a freezing January night. Nicole woke up to a contraction so powerful it made her scream. She was alone in her efficiency apartment, 33 weeks pregnant, and something was very wrong. She managed to call Gloria, her voice shaking with fear and pain. "Gloria, something's wrong. The babies are coming, and I'm at work." Nicole had been cleaning the Pinnacle Corporate Center, scrubbing toilets on the 42nd floor when the contractions started. She had tried to ignore them, tried to push through because she needed the money, needed every single shift. "Stay exactly where you are." Gloria's voice was fierce with protective love. "I'm calling an ambulance and coming to get you right now." The paramedics found Nicole collapsed in the hallway outside the executive washroom, clutching her belly as another contraction tore through her. By the time they got her to County General Hospital, she was fully dilated and the babies were coming whether anyone was ready or not. The delivery was chaos. Too many people in scrubs, too many machines beeping, too much pain. Nicole had asked for an epidural, but there wasn't time. The babies were coming now. At 4:23 in the morning, Marlon Alexander Simmons entered the world screaming at the top of his lungs, as if announcing his intention to fight for everything life had to offer. 3 minutes later, his sister Phoebe Grace followed, quiet but alert, her dark eyes already seeming to take in everything around her with serious contemplation. And 2 minutes after that, Adrian James arrived, smaller than his siblings but with a grip that was surprisingly strong when he wrapped his tiny fingers around Nicole's thumb. Nicole held them for the first time. 3 tiny babies, premature and fragile and perfect. Marlon barely 5 pounds. Phoebe 4 pounds 12 ounces. Adrian just over 4 pounds. They looked so small, so vulnerable, so completely dependent on her. Gloria stood beside the hospital bed, tears streaming down her face. "They're beautiful, Nick. Look at them. They're absolutely perfect." And they were, despite everything. Despite being born into poverty and uncertainty, and a world that seemed stacked against them. They were perfect. Nicole looked at each of her children. Marlon had Scott's strong jawline, and that same natural authority even as a newborn. Phoebe had Nicole's delicate features, but with an unmistakable strength in her tiny grip. Adrian had inherited Scott's gray eyes, but Nicole's gentler expression. "I'm sorry," Nicole whispered to them as they slept in her arms. "I'm sorry I can't give you everything you deserve right now. I'm sorry your father doesn't want you. I'm sorry you were born into this mess. But I promise you, I swear to you on everything I am, I will never give up. I will never stop fighting for you. You deserve so much more than this. And somehow, some way, I'm going to make sure you get it." Gloria squeezed Nicole's shoulder gently, her voice soft. What are you going to do about Scott? I mean, those are his children. He should know he has triplets. He should at least pay child support. Nicole's voice was firm despite her exhaustion. He made his choice when he called me nothing and walked away. These beautiful babies are not nothing, and they don't need a father who would see them as burdens instead of blessings. They don't need his money if it comes with his resentment. They need love. And I have enough love for all of us. But the money, Nick. Gloria's practicality was born from her own struggles as a working mother. You can't raise 3 babies alone with no help. You have to at least file for child support. It's not about you. It's about them. Nicole looked down at Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian, all sleeping peacefully despite being born into poverty and uncertainty. I won't be alone. I have them, and they have me. We're a family now. That's what matters. I'll figure out the rest. Luna had made an excuse not to come to the hospital. Oh, Nicole, I'm so sorry. I have this work thing I absolutely cannot get out of, but I'll come visit tomorrow. I promise. Send me pictures. Nicole, believing her best friend was genuinely busy, had sent pictures. Beautiful photos of the triplets, and Luna had posted them on her Instagram with a caption that made Nicole cry with gratitude. My beautiful best friend just gave birth to triplets. I'm so proud of her strength. Being a single mom is the hardest job in the world, and she's already amazing at it. Love you, Nick. Heart emoji. Praying hands emoji. Baby emoji ×3. What Nicole didn't know was that Luna had saved those photos and shown them to Scott that same night. Look at this. 3 babies that could have been your burden. Aren't you glad you're free? And Scott had looked at the photos of his newborn children and felt nothing but relief that they weren't his problem. 4 weeks later, Nicole's reality had fully set in. Caring for newborn triplets in an efficiency apartment with no money and no help was overwhelming beyond anything she had imagined. The babies cried in shifts, ensuring she never got more than an hour of sleep at a time. Her body ached from childbirth, but she couldn't afford to take time off work. She was back to cleaning offices within 10 days of giving birth, strapping the triplets to her chest in second-hand baby carriers borrowed from a community charity. One particularly brutal night, when all 3 babies had been crying for 4 straight hours and Nicole hadn't slept in 38 hours, she found herself sobbing right along with them. She was sitting on the floor of her apartment at 3 in the morning, Phoebe in her arms. Marlon and Adrian crying in their shared crib that Gloria had found at a yard sale. Nicole was exhausted, broke, terrified, and wondering if she was strong enough for this impossible task. That was when she looked down at Marlon, who had suddenly stopped crying and was staring up at her with those serious gray eyes that were so much like Scott's. Something in his gaze seemed to communicate directly with her heart. We are counting on you, Mama. Don't give up on us. You're right, Nicole whispered to him, then looked at Phoebe in her arms and Adrian in the crib. You're all right. I can't fall apart. You 3 are the best things that ever happened to me, and I'm going to prove to the world, and to myself, that we don't need anybody else. You deserve everything, and I'm going to make sure you get it. She wiped her tears and stood up, settling Phoebe in the crib with her brothers. All 3 babies, as if they understood, settled down and fell asleep. Nicole stood over their crib for a long time, watching them breathe, and felt something she hadn't experienced since the night Scott left her. Hope. It was just a tiny spark, barely alive after months of despair. But it was there, growing stronger as she watched her children sleep. She had no money, no husband, no support system beyond her overworked sister and struggling parents. But she had something Scott would never understand. She had love. And she had determination that had been forged in the fire of absolute necessity. Scott Bailey. Nicole whispered into the darkness of her rundown apartment, her voice gaining strength with each word. Wherever you are with your perfect new life, you have no idea what you threw away. But someday, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that these babies and I are worth more than you ever imagined. You called us nothing, but we're going to be everything. Outside her window, the first hints of dawn were beginning to touch the sky, painting it in shades of pink and gold. Nicole sat down in the broken recliner Gloria had found for her and closed her eyes for a few minutes of rest before the babies woke up again. She didn't know it yet, but this was the night everything began to change. This was the night Nicole Bailey stopped being a victim and started becoming Nicole Simmons, the woman who would one day show Scott Bailey and Luna Tucker the true meaning of regret. 18 months after the triplets were born, Nicole stood in front of that same cracked mirror in her bathroom. But something was different. The dark circles were still there. The exhaustion was still real. But there was something new in her eyes. Something that hadn't been there before. Determination. The night before, she had made a decision. She was tired of surviving. It was time to start living. Time to start building. Not for revenge. Not to prove Scott wrong. But because Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian deserved a mother who fought for them. Who showed them that circumstances don't define you. Choices do. Nicole had always loved art. In graduate school, before Scott, before the marriage, before everything fell apart, she had painted. Watercolors mostly. Landscapes and portraits and abstract pieces that captured emotion in color and light. She had been good at it. Really good. Her professors had told her she had a gift. But after marrying Scott, she had stopped. He had never said she couldn't paint. But there had been this subtle pressure to be available for his business dinners, his networking events, his life. And slowly, without even realizing it, she had put away her brushes and her paints and her dreams. Now, standing in her tiny apartment with 3 sleeping babies and a future that terrified her, Nicole dug through the boxes she had brought from the penthouse. At the very bottom, wrapped in newspaper, she found them. Her brushes, her paints, a small canvas. That weekend, Gloria came over to watch the triplets. Nicole took the bus to the farmer's market downtown, set up a card table she had borrowed from a neighbor, and displayed 12 small watercolor paintings she had created during the baby's nap times over the past 2 weeks. They were simple pieces. A mother holding a baby, 3 birds on a wire, a sunrise breaking through storm clouds. But they were honest, raw, full of the emotion that had been living in Nicole's chest for 18 months with nowhere to go. By the end of the day, she had sold 4 paintings, $25 each, $100 total. Nicole rode the bus home with tears streaming down her face, clutching that money like it was $1 million. Because, in a way, it was. It was proof that she could create something, that her art, her passion, her gift had value, that she wasn't nothing. That's beautiful, sweetie. The elderly woman sitting beside her on the bus had been watching Nicole cry. What are you celebrating? Nicole wiped her tears and smiled, really smiled, for the first time in 18 months. I just realized I'm going to be okay. My babies and I are going to be okay. The woman patted her hand. Of course you are, dear. You've got the look of a fighter. And fighters always find a way. The second weekend, Nicole sold 8 paintings for a total of $200. The third weekend, all 12 sold out in the first 2 hours, and people were asking if she did commissions. By the end of the second month, Nicole had a waiting list. She raised her prices to $50 per painting. They still sold out. She raised them again to $75. Still sold out. That was when Donna Hartwell found her. Donna owned the Hartwell Gallery, a small but respected art gallery in the city's arts district. She had been walking through the farmer's market looking for fresh flowers when she saw Nicole's table and stopped dead in her tracks. These are extraordinary. Donna picked up a painting of a woman's silhouette against a stormy sky, light breaking through the clouds around her. This is raw emotion on canvas. Who are you? Nicole Simmons. Nicole's voice was nervous. I'm just a mom who paints when my kids nap. Donna looked at Nicole, really looked at her, saw the worn clothes and the exhaustion and the determination. You're more than that. You're an artist, a real one. Have you ever shown in a gallery? Nicole shook her head. I have a master's in art history, but I've never sold my own work before. This is all new. Would you be interested in a showing at my gallery? Donna's eyes were sharp, assessing. I'm talking 12 to 15 pieces, properly framed and displayed. I take 30% commission, you keep 70. I think we could price these at $300 to $500 each, depending on size. Nicole's heart stopped. $300 to $500? Per painting? That was more than she made in a week of working 3 jobs. Yes, absolutely. When? Give me 6 weeks to prepare the space and market the event. Can you create 12 new pieces in that time? Nicole thought about her schedule. Cleaning offices midnight to 6. Diner shift 11 to 3. Freelance design work in the evenings. The triplets needing constant care. Sleep being a luxury she couldn't afford. Yes, I can do it. And she did. For 6 weeks, Nicole painted during every spare moment. while the triplets napped, after they went to bed at night. During her lunch break at the diner, she painted with a fury and passion that came from somewhere deep in her soul. She painted her pain, her fear, her hope, her love for her children. Every emotion that had been trapped inside her for 2 years came out on those canvases. The showing at Hartwell Gallery was on a Friday night. Nicole wore the only nice dress she owned, something she had bought at a thrift store for $8. She stood in the gallery, surrounded by her own art hanging on white walls under perfect lighting, and felt like she was dreaming. 47 people attended. By the end of the night, all 12 paintings had sold for a total of $4,600. After Donna's commission, Nicole walked away with $3,220. It was more money than she had seen at one time since her divorce. She went home that night, looked at her sleeping babies and cried, because for the first time since Scott had called her nothing, she felt like somebody. But Nicole was smart enough to know that art alone wouldn't be enough. The market was unpredictable. She needed something more stable, something she could build a real business on. That was when she started teaching herself graphic design. Nicole had always had an eye for aesthetics. Her art history degree had taught her about composition, color theory, visual storytelling. She started watching free tutorials online, teaching herself Adobe, Photoshop, and Illustrator during the hours when normal people sleep. She created a website, Simmons Creative, offering logo design, branding packages, visual identity systems. She charged low prices at first, $100 for a logo, $300 for a full branding package. Her first client was a local coffee shop that wanted a new logo. Nicole created something simple but striking. The owner loved it so much she told her friends. Those friends hired Nicole. They told their friends. Word spread. Within 6 months, Nicole was fully booked. She raised her prices. $500 for a logo, $1,200 for a branding package. Still booked solid. She combined her fine art training with modern digital design in a way that was unique. Classical composition meets contemporary branding. It was something no one else in the market was doing, and businesses loved it. By the time the triplets were 2 years old, Nicole had quit 2 of her 3 jobs. She was making enough from her art and her design work to cover rent, groceries, and childcare while she worked. It wasn't luxury, but it was stability. It was progress. It was hope. And through it all, Luna was watching. Luna continued her weekly visits, bringing cheap baby clothes and toys, taking photos, with the triplets, posting on social media about being the world's best godmother. "Oh my God, Marlon is getting so big," Luna would coo over the babies, her performance flawless. "And Phoebe is so beautiful. Adrian is going to be so smart, I can tell." Then she would ask the questions that seemed innocent but were really intelligence gathering. "So how are you doing financially? Are you managing okay? Still working those cleaning jobs?" Nicole, still trusting, still believing Luna was her true friend, would answer honestly, "Actually, things are getting better. I've been selling my art and doing some graphic design work. I'm making enough to cut back on some of the harder jobs." Luna's smile would stay fixed, but her eyes would harden. "That's so great, Nick. Your little side hustle is really paying off." Little side hustle. Like it was a hobby. Like it wasn't Nicole rebuilding her entire life from ashes. Luna would leave those visits and go straight to Scott's penthouse, where she had been living for over a year now. Their relationship still secret from Nicole, still hidden behind Luna's performance of supportive friendship. "She's starting to make money," Luna would tell Scott, anxiety creeping into her voice. "She's selling paintings and doing design work. She's not as desperate anymore." Scott would look up from his laptop, barely interested. "So, let her have her little art career. It's not like she's competing with real businesses." But Luna knew better. She had seen Nicole's work, seen the way people responded to it, seen the waiting list growing, and something about Nicole's rising success made Luna's skin crawl with anxiety. Nicole was supposed to stay broken. That was the script. That was how this story was supposed to go. Luna had taken everything from her. Nicole was supposed to wallow in that loss forever, supposed to be a cautionary tale, supposed to prove that people like Luna, people from money and status, always won in the end. But Nicole was rising, slowly, steadily, undeniably rising, and Luna didn't know how to stop it. When the triplets were 3 years old, everything exploded for Nicole in the best possible way. A woman named Alexis Montgomery, an executive at Thornton Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest healthcare companies in the state, walked into the Hartwell Gallery during one of Nicole's exhibitions. She stood in front of a painting called Phoenix Rising for 20 minutes just staring at it. The painting showed a woman emerging from flames, 3 small figures, held protectively in her arms, lights surrounding them like armor. It was Nicole's story, painted in bold reds and golds and deep blues. Alexis bought the painting for $3,000. Then she asked Donna for Nicole's contact information. The meeting happened the following week. Nicole, nervous but determined, met Alexis at a downtown coffee shop. She wore her best thrift store blazer and carried a portfolio of her design work. "Miss Simmons, your art moved me." Alexis got straight to business. "But I'm not here about paintings. I'm here about branding. Thornton Pharmaceuticals is rebranding our entire corporate identity. New logo, new color scheme, new visual language across all our materials. We're talking websites, packaging, signage, everything. I've looked at your design portfolio. I want to hire you." Nicole's heart was pounding. This would be the biggest client she had ever had. By far. How much of a project are we talking about? $85,000. Alexis said it like it was a normal number, like she wasn't offering Nicole more money than Nicole had seen in her entire life. 6-month timeline. Full creative control with our input. Can you handle something this size? Nicole thought about the late nights she had already been pulling, the way she had taught herself every aspect of design through sheer determination, the portfolio of work she had built client by client, project by project, never cutting corners, always delivering her absolute best. Yes, her voice was steady, sure. I can handle it, and I'll make it the best rebrand you've ever seen. She did exactly that. For 6 months, Nicole worked harder than she had ever worked on anything. She researched Thornton's history, their values, their mission. She created mood boards and color palettes and dozens of logo concepts. She refined and revised and perfected until the branding system she presented was flawless. Alexis cried when Nicole presented the final work. "This is exactly what we needed. You didn't just create a logo. You created a visual identity that tells our story. This is brilliant, Nicole. Absolutely brilliant." The $85,000 payment hit Nicole's bank account on a Tuesday afternoon. She was at home with the triplets when the notification came through on her phone. She stared at that number for a full minute, not believing it was real. Then she sank to her knees in her tiny kitchen and sobbed. Not sad tears, not scared tears. Tears of absolute overwhelming relief and joy and gratitude. Marlon, who was playing with blocks on the floor, toddled over to her. "Mama, okay?" Nicole pulled him close, then called Phoebe and Adrian over. She held all 3 of her babies and laughed through her tears. "Mama is more than okay, sweethearts. Mama just made enough money to change our lives." And she did. Nicole used that money to hire 2 part-time designers so she could take on more clients. She rented a small studio space in the Arts District so she had a professional place to work. She moved the triplets out of that efficiency apartment and into a modest 3-bedroom house in a safe neighborhood with a yard where they could play. It wasn't luxury, but it was theirs. And it was safe. And it was the first time in 3 years that Nicole went to sleep without the constant knot of terror in her stomach about how she would pay next month's rent. Word spread about the Thornton rebrand. Other companies started calling. A regional hospital system wanted Nicole to design their new visual identity. A law firm needed a complete rebrand. A tech startup wanted her to create their entire corporate look from scratch. Nicole raised her prices. $50,000 for a full rebrand, $75,000 for larger companies, and they paid it because her work was exceptional, because she brought an artist's eye to corporate branding in a way that was unique and powerful. She hired more employees, rented a larger studio, created an official company, Simmons Creative. Not just Nicole doing freelance work anymore, a real business with real employees and real overhead and real success. By the time the triplets were 3.5 years old, Simmons Creative was on track to generate $500,000 in revenue that year. Nicole had gone from working 3 jobs to make $400 a month to running a business that was making $40,000 a month. And she had done it in 3.5 years, while raising infant triplets alone, while healing from devastating betrayal, while building herself back up from nothing. That was when Luna's panic became terror. Luna had been so careful to monitor Nicole's progress. The visits had continued, less frequent now, but regular enough for Luna to keep tabs. And what she was seeing made her physically sick with rage and fear. Nicole wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. Her business was growing exponentially. She had employees. She had major corporate clients. She was being mentioned in local business publications as an up-and-coming entrepreneur to watch. This wasn't the script. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Luna had been with Scott for 3.5 years now, living with him for 2. She had everything she had wanted: the penthouse, the wealthy boyfriend, the access to his world and his money and his status. But Scott still hadn't proposed. Every time Luna brought up marriage, he would change the subject, say it wasn't the right time, say he was focused on growing the business, say they didn't need a piece of paper to prove their love. Luna knew what that meant. It meant he was keeping his options open. It meant she hadn't locked him down the way Nicole had. It meant she was living the life she had destroyed Nicole's life to get, but she didn't even have the security of a ring. And now Nicole, poor pathetic struggling Nicole, was becoming successful, was becoming someone, was being featured in magazines and growing a business and making real money. People were going to start comparing them, were going to notice that Scott's ex-wife had built something impressive while his current girlfriend was just, what? Living off his money? Being decorative? The thought made Luna want to scream. So Luna did something desperate, something calculated, something designed to force Scott's hand and destroy Nicole once and for all. She went to Scott's office on a Tuesday afternoon with an ultimatum. We need to talk. Luna sat across from Scott's desk in a designer dress that costs more than Nicole's monthly rent used to. We've been together for almost 4 years, living together for 2. I love you. You say you love me. So I need to know, are you going to marry me or not? Scott looked up from his laptop, annoyed at being interrupted. Luna, we've talked about this. Marriage isn't a priority for me right now. Then I'm leaving. Luna's voice was cold, hard. I'm not going to be your permanent girlfriend while you keep shopping for something better. I deserve more than that. She played her next card carefully. Your ex-wife is becoming successful, Scott. Have you seen? She's got this design company that's growing fast. People are talking about her, saying how impressive it is that a single mother built a business from nothing. And you know what people are going to say about us if we don't get married? They're going to say Nicole won. They're going to say she left you and became someone while you just moved on to the next woman you'll probably leave too. That hit him. Scott's ego, his pride, his need to be seen as successful in every area of his life. The idea that people might think his ex-wife was thriving while he was stagnating was intolerable. Fine. Scott's jaw was tight with wounded pride. We'll get married. Are you happy? It wasn't romantic. It wasn't the proposal Luna had dreamed of, but it was a yes, and that was all that mattered. 2 weeks later, Scott proposed properly. Expensive ring, fancy restaurant, down on one knee. Luna said yes, and immediately started planning the wedding of the century. 600 guests at the Grand Meridian Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city, unlimited budget. Every detail perfect, every moment designed to prove that Luna had won everything. But winning wasn't enough for Luna. She needed Nicole to know she had lost, needed to rub it in her face, needed one final moment of complete and total humiliation to prove that money and status and people like Luna always win in the end. So Luna decided to personally invite Nicole to the wedding. The invitation arrived at Nicole's office on a Tuesday morning. Simmons Creative had recently expanded into a larger space in the warehouse district, a beautiful converted loft with exposed brick and high ceilings and enough room for a growing team of designers. Nicole was reviewing mock-ups for a new client when her assistant brought in the Tiffany blue box delivered by courier. Miss Simmons, this just arrived for you. Personal delivery. Nicole opened the box, pulled out the exquisite invitation, and felt her blood run cold. Mr. Scott Bailey and Ms. Luna Tucker request the honor of your presence at their marriage ceremony. Scott and Luna, getting married. For a moment, Nicole couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room seemed to tilt around her. Then she saw the handwritten note tucked inside. Luna's distinctive handwriting on expensive stationery. Dearest Nicole, surprise. I know this might come as a shock, but Scott and I have been together for quite some time now. Since shortly after your divorce, actually. We didn't want to hurt you by telling you back then, given how much you were struggling with the babies and everything. We're getting married at the Grand Meridian Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city, as you probably know. We'd be honored to have you attend. Please bring Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian. I've been their Auntie Luna all this time, and I'd love for them to see me become their father's wife. I know things have been hard for you, though I've heard your little business is doing well. That's so wonderful. Don't worry about bringing an expensive gift. Your presence is enough. I've always been there for you, Nicole, through everything, and I want you to witness my happiness, just like I witnessed yours once upon a time. With love and concern, your best friend forever, Luna. P.S. I made sure to reserve you a good seat. Not at the head table, of course, but you'll have a clear view of everything. I wouldn't want you to miss a single moment. Nicole read the note 3 times. Each time, another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Since shortly after your divorce, Luna had been with Scott the whole time, while visiting Nicole in that horrible apartment, while holding newborn triplets, while posting about being a supportive best friend. All of it, every single moment, had been a lie. Nicole's hands started shaking, not with fear, with rage. Pure, white-hot rage that made her vision blur. Every supportive visit had been surveillance. Every photo had been a trophy. Every hug had been a performance. Luna hadn't been her friend. Luna had been her tormentor, watching her suffer for sport. Nicole picked up her phone and called Gloria. "Gloria, it's me." She struggled to keep her voice steady. "Are you free for lunch today? I need to show you something." An hour later, Nicole and Gloria sat in their favorite cafe, the wedding invitation spread between them on the small table. Gloria's face went through a series of expressions: shock, disgust, rage, and finally, something murderous. "I cannot believe this." Gloria's voice was shaking. "That snake, that evil, twisted snake. She was with Scott the whole time? While you were pregnant? While you were struggling? While she was pretending to be your friend? The whole time." Nicole's voice was eerily calm now, the kind of calm that comes after the storm of initial rage passes. Every visit, every photo, every moment of fake support, she was with him, living with him, probably laughing about me. "You're not going." Gloria grabbed her sister's hand. "Nicole, please tell me you're not going to this. Just throw the invitation away. Cut her out of your life. Don't give her the satisfaction." Nicole was quiet for a long moment, staring at Luna's handwritten note with its fake concern and thinly veiled cruelty. Actually, a smile began to form on Nicole's lips. A cold, calculated smile that Gloria had never seen before. "I think I am going to go." "What? No. Nicole, why would you put yourself through that?" "Because..." Nicole looked up at her sister, and her eyes were clear and determined. "Luna sent this invitation because she thinks I'm still that broken woman Scott left behind. She thinks I'm still struggling, still desperate. She wants to parade her success in front of me and watch me shrink. She wants 600 people to see me humiliated." Gloria started to understand. "But you're not that woman anymore." "No, I'm not." Nicole's smile widened. "In the past 4 years, I've built a business that's valued at over $1 million. I have 8 employees. I have major corporate clients. I was just featured in the State Business Journal. I'm not struggling anymore, Gloria. I'm succeeding. And Luna has no idea." "Oh my God." Gloria started to smile too. "You're going to show her. I'm going to show everyone." Nicole's voice was steady and sure. "Luna wants to humiliate me in front of 600 people? Fine. Let's give those 600 people a show. Let them see what Scott threw away. Let them see what I built from the ashes of what Luna destroyed. Let them see the truth. What about the triplets? They're only 4. They're coming with me." Nicole's decision was final. Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian deserve to see their mother stand tall. They deserve to see that the people who try to break you don't get to win. And Scott, their biological father who wanted nothing to do with them, needs to see exactly what he walked away from. Gloria was quiet for a moment, then reached across the table and squeezed Nicole's hand. "You're sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. This isn't about revenge, Gloria. This is about truth. Luna has been playing a game for 4 years, where she gets to be the winner, and I'm supposed to be the loser. It's time someone told her the game is over." Over the next 3 weeks, Nicole prepared for the wedding with the same strategic precision she brought to her biggest client projects. First, the dress. She took Gloria to Nordstrom and met with a personal shopper named Eli who had worked with her on a few business events. "I need something spectacular." Nicole was clear about her requirements. "Black tie wedding guest. I want to make an unforgettable impression. This is probably the most important entrance I'll ever make. Eli's eyes lit up with the challenge. Budget? Whatever it takes to be perfect. They found it 3 hours later. An emerald silk gown by Carolina Herrera that hugged Nicole's figure perfectly before flowing into an elegant train. The color brought out her hazel eyes and complemented her olive skin tone beautifully. The design was unmistakably expensive, clearly the work of a master designer. "Nick, you look like you should be on a red carpet at the Oscars," Gloria breathed as Nicole emerged from the dressing room for the final fitting. "That's exactly the look I want." Nicole studied herself in the three-way mirror. This isn't just a dress, it's armor. The triplets were next. At 4 years old, Marlon and Adrian needed tiny tuxedos that were tailored to fit perfectly. Phoebe needed a dress that would make her look like the princess she was. At the formal wear shop, all 3 children approached the task with surprising seriousness. Nicole had explained to them, in age-appropriate terms, that they were going to meet some people who hadn't been very kind to Mommy, and they needed to show those people that being kind is what matters. "Do we look fancy, Mama?" Phoebe twirled in her midnight blue dress that made her look like a tiny princess. "You look perfect, sweetheart. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to shake hands like a gentleman." Marlon practiced his firm handshake, his little face serious and determined. "Me too." Adrian copied his brother, wanting to do everything Marlon did. Nicole knelt down to their level. "Remember, we're going to this wedding to show people who we are. We're a family. We're strong. We're kind. And we don't need anyone's approval to know we're valuable. Okay?" All 3 children nodded solemnly. The week leading up to the wedding, Nicole threw herself into preparation. Hair appointments, makeup trials. She hired a luxury car service. She even hired a photographer to document their preparation, wanting pictures of this transformation. "Are you nervous?" Gloria asked the night before the wedding as they sat in Nicole's living room, going over final details. Surprisingly, no, Nicole replied honestly. "I feel peaceful, like I'm finally getting the chance to close a chapter that's been open too long." Gloria studied her sister's face in the lamplight. "You've really changed, you know, not just since Scott left, but even in the past few weeks since you got that invitation. You seem powerful." Nicole considered that assessment. "I think I finally understand something that took me 4 years to learn. Scott's opinion of me never mattered. Luna's jealousy never mattered. It was never about whether I was good enough for them. It was about whether they were good enough for me. And the answer to that question is very clear now. Those kids of yours are lucky to have you as their mother. I'm the lucky one." Nicole glanced toward the stairs where Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian were sleeping. "They saved me. Having something so precious to fight for made me stronger than I ever knew I could be." The morning of the wedding dawned clear and warm, a perfect June day. Nicole woke early and began the process of transformation with methodical precision. The hairstylist arrived first, creating an elegant updo that was sophisticated without being overly formal, the kind of hairstyle that whispered rather than shouted its expense. The makeup artist followed, enhancing Nicole's natural beauty with subtle glamour that would photograph beautifully under ballroom lighting. When it was time to dress, Gloria helped Nicole into the emerald Carolina Herrera gown, carefully arranging the train and adjusting the delicate straps. The dress fit like it had been made for her. The jewelry was the final touch. Diamond earrings Nicole had bought herself to celebrate Simmons Creative's 3rd anniversary. A matching pendant she had purchased when the triplets were accepted at Riverside Academy, the prestigious private school they would start in the fall. Each piece represented a victory, a milestone achieved through her own determination. Nicole called upstairs. "Kids, time to get ready." Marlon and Adrian appeared in their matching tuxedos, bow ties perfectly straight, hair neatly combed. Phoebe descended carefully in her midnight blue dress, looking like a young lady rather than a 4-year-old. They looked so grown up, so extraordinary, that Nicole felt tears threatening her carefully applied makeup. "Do we look okay, Mama?" Phoebe asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "You look perfect." Nicole knelt down, careful not to wrinkle her gown, and pulled all 3 children close. "All of you look like the incredible people you're becoming." Marlon straightened his little shoulders. "Are you ready to show everyone who we are?" Nicole looked at herself and her children in the full-length mirror one final time. The woman looking back bore no resemblance to the broken, desperate person Scott had discarded 4 years ago. This woman was confident, successful, surrounded by love. Yes, her voice was firm, sure. "I'm ready." The black town car arrived precisely at 7:15, exactly as Nicole had planned. Fashionably late. She wanted to arrive when the cocktail reception was in full swing, when the maximum number of guests would witness their entrance. As they drove toward the Grand Meridian Hotel, Nicole held her children's hands and felt that familiar fire burning in her chest. The same sense of purpose that had carried her through late nights, studying design software, through building her business, through every challenge of the past 4 years. Scott thought he was marrying his perfect match. Luna thought she was having her moment of ultimate triumph. Neither of them had any idea what was about to happen. The car pulled up to the Grand Meridian's entrance. Through the tinted windows, Nicole could see elegantly dressed guests mingling. On the terrace, champagne glasses catching the golden light of the setting sun. "Ready?" she asked her children. "Ready, Mama." They answered in unison. The driver opened their door. Nicole stepped out first, the emerald gown flowing around her like liquid silk. Then Marlon emerged in his tiny tuxedo. Then Phoebe in her princess dress. Then Adrian, serious and handsome. The effect was immediate. Nearby guests turned to look. Conversations paused. There was something about this woman and these beautiful children that commanded attention. "Miss Simmons." The maitre d' Robert greeted her with genuine warmth and recognition. "What a pleasure to see you again. Your work on the Thornton Pharmaceuticals Gala last year was absolutely magnificent." "Thank you, Robert." Nicole smiled graciously. "We're here for the Bailey Tucker wedding." "Of course. The cocktail reception is in the terrace garden. Dinner will begin in the main ballroom at 8. May I say, you and your children look absolutely stunning this evening." As they walked through the hotel's opulent lobby toward the terrace, Nicole caught glimpses of their reflection in the mirrored walls. They looked like they had stepped out of a magazine. Elegant, confident, clearly accustomed to this level of sophistication. The moment they stepped onto the terrace, Nicole felt the ripple effect. Conversations didn't stop abruptly, but there was a subtle shift in energy. Heads turning. Curious attention. My goodness. She heard a woman whisper to her companion, "Who is that stunning woman with those beautiful children? They look like they should be in a magazine. I don't recognize them." Another voice murmured, "But they're clearly somebody important. Look at that gown. That's Carolina Herrera, if I've ever seen it." Nicole accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter and surveyed the crowd with practiced ease. She recognized several faces from her professional circles, business leaders, cultural figures, people she had worked with through Simmons Creative. These were Scott's people, the elite circle he had always aspired to join. What Scott didn't realize was that many of these people were also Nicole's people now, earned through her own merit. "Nicole Simmons," a familiar voice called out, and Nicole turned to see Senator Morrison's wife approaching with obvious delight. "I had no idea you'd be here. You look absolutely radiant, my dear." "Mrs. Morrison." Nicole's warmth was genuine. "How lovely to see you. Allow me to introduce my children, Marlon, Phoebe, Adrian." All three stepped forward with perfect manners, offering polite handshakes and warm smiles. What delightful young people. Mrs. Morrison was clearly charmed. "Are you enjoying your summer?" "Yes, ma'am," Phoebe replied with practiced grace. "We're looking forward to starting at Riverside Academy in the fall. This summer we've been helping our mother with some of her gallery exhibitions. Riverside Academy. Excellent school." Mrs. Morrison turned back to Nicole with curious interest. "I didn't realize you knew the bride and groom." Nicole's smile didn't waver, though she could feel the weight of attention from nearby guests. "I have a connection to the groom from years past, and Luna was my college roommate and best friend. Or so I thought. I thought it would be appropriate to attend their celebration." As Mrs. Morrison moved on, more familiar faces approached. Dr. Patricia Hartwell, the hospital CEO whose rebranding Nicole had overseen. Judge Davidson, whose daughter's wedding invitation suite had been a Simmons Creative project. 3 prominent business owners whose corporate identities Nicole had created. Each interaction established her presence and status among the wedding guests. To these people, she wasn't some unknown party crasher. She was Nicole Simmons, the successful creative entrepreneur they had worked with and respected. "Mom," Adrian whispered during a brief lull, "everyone seems to know you. And like you, I've worked hard to build relationships in this community," Nicole replied softly. "Tonight, that work is paying off in ways I never expected." From across the terrace, she saw Luna for the first time. Luna was holding court near the fountain, surrounded by bridesmaids in expensive dresses, all of them laughing at something Luna had said. Luna looked beautiful, undeniably so. Her blonde hair was styled in an elaborate updo. Her pre-wedding cocktail dress was clearly designer, probably $10,000 at least. She looked every inch the wealthy, successful woman she had always been. But when Luna's eyes scanned the crowd and landed on Nicole, the champagne glass in her hand slipped from her perfectly manicured fingers. It shattered against the marble floor with a sound that seemed to echo across the terrace. Luna's face went white, then red, then white again. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Nicole smiled, not a bitter smile, not an angry smile, a smile of someone who had already won and knew it. She began walking slowly across the terrace toward Luna, Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian beside her. Conversations parted before them. Every eye followed their progress. "Luna, are you okay?" Scott appeared beside his bride, confused by her sudden pallor. "You look like you've seen a ghost." But Luna couldn't speak. She could only stare at this woman who was supposed to arrive broken, who was supposed to confirm Luna's victory, who was supposed to make Luna feel superior one last time. Except this woman was not broken. This woman looked like a queen, and the 3 children beside her looked like royalty. "Hello, Luna." Nicole's voice carried across the sudden, quiet, clear and gracious. "Thank you so much for the invitation. The children and I wouldn't have missed this for the world." That was when Scott finally looked at Nicole, really looked at her, and his brain struggled to process what his eyes were seeing. This sophisticated, elegant, stunning woman could not be the woman he had called nothing 4 years ago, could not be the woman he had abandoned when she was pregnant and desperate. But it was. And then his eyes moved to the children beside her, 3 4-year-olds. The timeline clicked in his head immediately. These were conceived right before he left. These were the babies Nicole had been pregnant with. Marlon had Scott's jawline, his exact bone structure, the same way of holding his shoulders. Phoebe had Scott's high cheekbones and elegant hands. Adrian had Scott's gray eyes, the same intelligent, serious expression. There was no question, no possibility of doubt. These were his children. Scott's face went white. His mouth opened. No words came out. Luna found her voice, shrill and panicked. "Nicole, you came, and you look different. 4 years can change a person, Luna." Nicole's voice was warm, but there was steel underneath. "You of all people should know. You've been watching the whole time." The words landed like bombs. Several nearby guests looked confused. "Watching. These are my children," Nicole continued smoothly. "Marlon, Phoebe, Adrian. Say hello to your father, Scott Bailey. And this is Luna Tucker, my former best friend, the one who was secretly dating Scott while I was pregnant with his triplets." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cell phones appeared. This was becoming the kind of scandal that people would talk about for years. "Nicole, you're confused." Luna's desperation was showing. "Scott and I only got together a year ago. I would never. We were friends." Nicole pulled out her phone. "That's interesting, because I have the Instagram posts you made 4 years ago." She held up her screen, showing the crowd. There was Luna, holding newborn Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian. The caption read, "Supporting my bestie through single motherhood. True friendship. Heart emoji." The date stamp showed 3.5 years ago. "You were supporting me while sleeping with my ex-husband." Nicole's voice was calm, factual. "While posting about how hard my life was, you were living in his penthouse. You were my best friend, Luna. I told you everything. I trusted you with my deepest pain. And you were the one who caused it." The crowd was completely silent now. Everyone watching this drama unfold. "Wait," someone in the crowd spoke up. "You mean Luna and Scott have been together since Nicole's divorce? While she was raising babies alone? And Luna pretended to be her friend the whole time?" The whispers grew louder. More people pulling out phones, checking Luna's old social media posts, finding the timeline, putting the pieces together. "She's lying." Luna's voice was rising, cracking. "She's always been jealous of me. She's making this up because she can't handle my happiness." Nicole's calm response was devastating. "Jealous? Luna, I built a company valued at over $3 million in 4 years while raising 3 children alone. What exactly would I be jealous of?" The crowd murmured. Several people nodded. They knew who Nicole Simmons was now, knew about Simmons Creative, knew about her success. Did she say $3 million? That's Nicole Simmons from Simmons Creative. Her company did our hospital's rebrand. She's brilliant. Luna's face was a mixture of horror and rage. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't the script. This wasn't supposed to happen. Luna's voice exploded across the terrace, all pretense of composure gone. You were supposed to be nothing. I did everything right. I got rid of you. I took Scott. You were poor. You were pathetic. You were supposed to stay broken. The truth was tumbling out now, unstoppable. Luna's mask completely shattered. I watched you suffer and it felt so good. I came to that disgusting apartment and took pictures of you crying and showed them to Scott and we laughed. You were supposed to be nothing forever. The crowd was horrified. Luna's parents, standing near the terrace entrance, looked like they wanted the ground to swallow them. Luna Catherine Tucker, her mother's voice cut through the chaos. What have you done? But Luna couldn't stop. 4 years of jealousy and obsession and twisted satisfaction were pouring out. I befriended you in college because guys always wanted you instead of me. You had nothing compared to me. Nothing. But they wanted your fake authenticity. I introduced you to Scott so I could be close to him. I spent 6 years pretending to like you. And when he fell for you, when he chose you over me, I broke you apart. The confession was complete, public, witnessed by 600 people and being recorded on dozens of phones. I made him think you trapped him. I made him leave you pregnant. And then I watched you suffer, and it was everything I wanted. You were supposed to stay broken. You were supposed to be nothing. Luna turned to the triplets, her face twisted with rage. And these mistakes were supposed to ruin your life forever. Marlon stepped forward. Small but brave. We're not mistakes. We're loved. The crowd made a collective sound of sympathy and admiration. Phoebe added, her 4-year-old voice carrying clearly. Mommy says people who are mean inside are actually just sad. Are you sad, Miss Luna? And Adrian finished. We don't need a daddy. We have Mommy. And she's the best. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Several women were crying. Senator Morrison stepped forward. Scott, Luna, this is absolutely disgraceful. I'm withdrawing the Morrison Foundation's support from all your business ventures immediately. Dr. Hartwell added her voice. I've never witnessed anything so cruel in my life. My hospital system will be terminating our contracts with Bailey Tech Solutions. One by one, business leaders stepped forward to publicly condemn Scott and Luna, to withdraw support, to sever ties. But it was Judge Davidson's words that hit hardest. Ms. Simmons, I apologize on behalf of everyone here that you were subjected to this betrayal. Your grace and dignity tonight, and clearly over the past 4 years, is remarkable. You've raised extraordinary children, while these two, he gestured dismissively at Scott and Luna, have revealed themselves to be utterly devoid of character. Luna's parents approached, her father's face stone-cold with rage. The engagement is off, he said flatly. You will not marry this man. You've disgraced our family name. We're leaving, now. But this is my wedding. Luna shrieked as her father grabbed her arm. This is my day. Mine. Her mother's voice was ice. You don't deserve a wedding. You deserve exactly what you gave Nicole. Nothing. They dragged Luna away as she screamed. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be nothing. I won. I won. Scott stood alone by the fountain, his business partners and colleagues approaching, one by one to inform him they were severing their relationships. His company would survive, but his reputation would not. Nicole watched it all with calm satisfaction. She hadn't needed to do anything but tell the truth. Luna and Scott had destroyed themselves. She gathered her children. Come on, loves. Let's go home. As they walked toward their car, guests stopped them. Not with pity, with respect. Business cards pressed into Nicole's hand. Requests to work with Simmons Creative. Compliments on her grace. Admiration for her children. The broken woman Scott had discarded was gone. In her place stood Nicole Simmons, and she was magnificent. 6 months later, Nicole stood in her office at Simmons Creative International, reading an email that had just arrived. From Luna Tucker, subject, I'm sorry. The email was pathetic, desperate, begging for forgiveness, asking if Nicole could give her a job, saying she had lost everything and Nicole was right. Nicole stared at it for a long moment. Then she deleted it without responding, not out of cruelty, but because Luna needed to find her own way, just like Nicole had. Forgiveness didn't require reconciliation. Some people taught you lessons by showing you exactly who not to be. That evening, Nicole went home to her beautiful house in Riverside Hills. The house she had bought with her own money. The house filled with her children's laughter and artwork and love. Marlon, Phoebe, and Adrian were in the living room, working on a puzzle together. "Mama," they called out when she walked in. Nicole hugged all three of them, breathing in their little kid smell, feeling the weight of their trust and love. "I love you three so much," she whispered. "We love you too, Mama," they answered. That night, after the children were asleep, Nicole stood at her bedroom window looking out at the city lights. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. From broken and abandoned to successful and fulfilled. Scott had called her nothing. Luna had tried to keep her there. But they had been wrong. So completely, devastatingly wrong. Because Nicole Simmons wasn't nothing. She was everything. Everything she had chosen to become through courage and love and relentless determination. And the best part? The people who had tried to destroy her had destroyed themselves instead. That, Nicole understood now, was real justice. Not revenge, not bitterness, simply the natural consequence of cruelty meeting truth. She had won, not by defeating them, but by becoming so authentically herself that their opinions became irrelevant. My beautiful family, we've reached the end of Nicole's story. But the truth is, this isn't just Nicole's story. It's a story for anyone who has ever been called nothing. For anyone who has been betrayed by someone they trusted. For anyone who has had to rebuild their life from ashes. This story teaches us that the people who try to destroy you often destroy themselves. That fake friends are more dangerous than honest enemies. That success built on cruelty will always crumble. And that success built on love lasts forever. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own strength, if it gave you hope that you can rise from whatever tried to break you, then do me a favor. Hit that like button right now, not for me, for you, as a declaration that you refuse to stay broken. Subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories because I have more tales of triumph over betrayal, of underdogs becoming champions, of broken people becoming whole. Share this with someone who needs to hear that what's meant for them will never miss them, that the wrong people leaving their life makes room for the right things to enter. And comment below. Tell me, do you think Luna got what she deserved? Or was karma too harsh? Tell me where you're watching from, or just say I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline. Let me feel your presence. Now receive this blessing from me like a blanket on a cold night. May your real friends reveal themselves before they can hurt you. May your fake friends expose themselves through their own actions. May your strength surprise even you when you need it most. May you build something so beautiful that those who doubted you become irrelevant to your happiness. May your children see you stand tall when the world tries to break you. May you remember that you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. May every person who called you nothing watch you become everything. May every moment of pain become fuel for your transformation. May every tear you cried water the seeds of your future success. And may you always remember that you are precious. You are needed. You are deeply, deeply loved. Until next time, this is Mr. Hearthline Stories, reminding you that sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. It's becoming so successful, so fulfilled, so genuinely happy that your enemies become irrelevant. God bless you. I love you, and I'll see you in the next story.